Welcome back to the shop. We got this old Ironhead back on the lift today, and we are going to strip these tanks, the oil tank and the fuel tank, down to bare metal. And Mr. Chase Spears from Pop's Garage Pinstriping, I hope I said that right. I don't know, I just call him Spears. He's going to come up and talk a little bit about what he wants to do. Now, he came up a little bit earlier in the week and decided that bare metal would be awesome, and then let's add some things into it and then clear over it. So that's going to be good. So we're going to strip these tanks, see what's underneath them. I'm very curious about that. The gas tank, the oil tank, we got to mount the fender, strip it down as well, and we're going to do a leather padding on this, well, really leather covering on this seat as well. And I don't know, oh my goodness, I'm thinking about, since it has shocks on it, do we even need the seat springs? I know it'd be, you know, more comfortable, but would it look better with it just setting down flat? I don't know. I guess we'll have to take the springs off and see how that looks. It might look better. It might make it dip down more, and it might even be, you know, kind of a more comfortable ride with the seat kind of down and back a little bit more. Besides that, after we do those things, I think we're ready to take it down the road, see how she rides. I am going to be swapping these grips out, not because there's anything wrong with the grips, but I think on my dad's chopper, he's got these metal grips. I don't think he's going to like those because the CB 750 chopper has 4 inline carbs with the linkage. You pull the throttle, it raises up that entire linkage and all 4 slides in the carb. And it's, you know, it's not as easy as pulling a single carb like on here. So I think this grip, a rubbery grip, would be better. And I'll take the metal grips and put over here. And then besides that, I think we're ready to, you know, go down the road and see how she rides, see how she bounces. We may fiddle with the timing a little bit because I'm still not, it's better, but I don't know. It's just, maybe my ears are off. It just still doesn't sound quite right. So I just want to at least double check that. I don't hear any ticking, any valve issues, push rod issues, internal issues. Now, we don't know how it ships, so we're going to find that out. Now, I did kind of ride it around the driveway a little bit in front of the shop and back in, so I know it does shift. I just don't know about the higher gears or going into neutral or anything like that. So some adjustments might have to be made for that. But besides that, guys, it's a really solid bike. And so let's get into stripping these tanks off. We got to drop the oil, flush the gas out. I want to try to use the airplane stripper, airplane remover, aircraft remover. I don't really have good luck with that. I usually just have better luck with a brass wheel on an angle grinder and zipping it off. But that does make a mess. At least with it bubbling up, we can scrape it off, and that might save us some time. I do have some paint stripper and other things like that we could brush on and try different things. But to me, just a big 6-inch brass brush wheel zips it right off. I don't like using a flap disc because I can get into the metal too easy. I don't know what's under here. I don't know if there's a bunch of Bondo under here. I don't know. And somebody said, well, what if you start stripping this off and there's a lot of work, dents and stuff under it? Well, I think that might be kind of cool. I think it might add to the originality of this bike. Remember, we're not going for showroom on this bike. We're going for just raw 1000 cc American horsepower. So, well, not horsepower, American power. Welcome back to Butler Customs Motorcycle Shop. right, so the first thing we got to do is get this tank off. I've already done the line on the petcock, turn the fuel off. I've already removed the bolt here and a bolt here, and then this should raise up over the seat and come out by the narrowest part of the top tube neck there. And there is a little bit of gas. I had a little bit of gas in this just to run it. So we'll drain this out. It doesn't sound like there's any really trash in the tank, so that's good. And I've not been seeing anything in the filter since we've been running it. And now for the oil tank, it's a little bit more complicated. We're going to need to drain the oil out of here, take the filter out, and then take off all the hoses. Remember, there was a hose I didn't like that was really close to this, I believe, the starter solenoid. I know it was on this. Well, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was on a different bike. But I found taking these old oil tanks off, it's easier to go ahead and take the battery out. Seat, since we don't have it bolted in, just comes up. And now we can kind of see the layout of the bike. I think if we remove these brackets, that seat can set down on here. And then we can actually kind of bolt the seat, put a nutsert in the fender once we get it where we want it, and actually bolt the seat to the fender or bolt it to these side mounts here. I'm not sure, but we're going to just at least take these brackets off and see what it looks like with the seat all the way down. I think it might be better because remember, you got mid controls. Yeah, you've got kind of a footrest up there, but your controls are back here. So when you're shifting or braking, your feet are going to be in the mid, not in the fronts. Yeah, we can get front controls for it, but I'm not for this. So it might be better that the seat is down and you're kind of back a little bit more. With the seat down, we can really move it back as much as we want to because our front bracket can go wherever we want to put it. So I think that might even be better. We can go ahead and take this off. Just got it stuck up there. Now let me bring you peepers over here and we'll look around at this oil tank and I'll show you what we got to remove to get the oil tank off. Okay, so I got the battery out and the oil line is held in with these 1, 2, 3 bolts here. And then on the other side, you have 2 other mounting bolts. You have one here at the back of the tank, and you have one here that is right under the exhaust, the rear exhaust. So I went ahead and took the rear exhaust off. It's just 1 bolt there, 1 bolt down here for the brace. And then we can take these off. You've got a line here, your return line. And let me show you what somebody kind of custom did. When they added the oil cooler, they put a rubber line in from the spout. They put a metal line in here back to a rubber line that goes up to the front. You say, what? Why in the world would they do that? Well, this line here on this tank runs so close to the exhaust that it would melt, possibly melt a rubber line. So that's why they added a metal, it kind of looks like a brake line in here to go that way. So that was a good idea. So at this time, we'll just drop the oil in this tank and let everything drain out good. And the oil plug for this tank is just a plug right down here that we'll take off and drop it. Now I do want to tell you, it looks to me like this tank was painted with the plug in and they painted over the plug, and the plug has not been out since. So this has a fairly new paint job or hasn't had an oil change since the paint job. Well, I know that, but I don't know the age of it. So let's drop this oil and it'll give us a chance to see the condition of the oil. I bet you where they had a massive air leak in the intake boot, a massive air leak in the intake boot, and the timing not right, the generator or the rectifier not charging, being grounded good and not giving charge back to the battery, causing a weak low spark. I bet there's tons of fuel, I'm just calling it right now, tons of fuel in this oil. So let me get a pan under here, maybe with a little filter, because this is kind of going right down on my center stand, and I'm lazy. I don't want to move the center stand. Just get a little funnel, because I do want to kind of poke my finger in and smell what it is, but I bet we can smell it without even putting our finger in it. All right, I got a little zip tie holding up my funnel there down into the pan, and I don't know what this is. Before it was painted, feels like it's a 5/8, but because the bolt was painted, I'm gonna have to get a monkey wrench. I know these are adjustable wrenches, probably is what you call them. I call them a monkey wrench. I don't know where that term come from, or if that's even the correct term. I don't know. Oh, so you can see how that indeed was painted over. Now let's see what we got here. Oh my goodness. Do you see how thin that is? Like water? Oh, I can smell the gas from here. Oh my goodness. That is like just gas. That is so thin. Oh my goodness. I have never smelt so much gas in oil before. Oh, how long did I try to crank this thing? I'm glad we didn't run it long. I'm glad we didn't take it down the road like this. That is so bad on those rings. That oil that thin. The rings just can't scrape it. It gets passed by the rings. Not only that, gosh, that's dangerous. I bet I could put a match in that and it would go up quick like. Whew, that's a lot of gas. All right, the O-ring on this was pretty much shot as well. Man, it's just so bad. That's terrible. But now that the oil's out, we can get the lines off. We can get the tank off. You know what I might do? I don't usually recommend this, but with the oil having so much gas in it, I think I want to start the bike up, just let it run for just a second, so the rest of that oil will flush out of the case and into here and out. I really don't want that gas in this oil. I don't want to add new fresh oil, 2050 oil, with gas still in the bottom of this case mixing oil. It really, guys, gas really thins out oil easily and quickly. So I think I want to do that. I got to probably put the tank back on to get some gas in the carburetor. I don't know. I'll try it without it, because I'm only going to run it for a second, just to pump some oil back into this to drain out. Well, never mind that idea. The battery's out of it, the exhaust's off of it, the tank's off of it. I think what I might do is put fresh oil in it, run it for a test drive, let it get good and warm, and then drop the oil again. I think I'd feel better about that. That way it flushes it out twice. But now we're ready to go ahead and take the tank off, take the hoses off, and then just unbolt it from the frame. Now with the 3 bolts off from the battery tray and the bolt off here, the mounting bolt in the front and the rear, I can slide them off the threaded studs, bend it over enough just to remove this bottom oil line that was dangerously close to the starter connection. So when we put this back on, we'll definitely angle that clamp in a different way. All right, so there it is. Pretty small, pretty simple. Now we'll go ahead and take the filter and the top off, and it just spins off, pops out. You got a little kind of cork bushing there in the top. You have a spring-loaded filter here. We will be changing that filter out. There's an O-ring underneath that. There is a screened filter inside this. Some have them where they just come out. You can drop them back in, but it looks like this one's made in together. So definitely don't want to reuse these, although it's probably very clean now with all the gas. All right, so we're outside by the shop. It's starting to bubble up a little bit here. I sprayed that aircraft remover on it. It's still doing its job in some places. So I'm just curious what's kind of underneath that. It looks like a single stage. If you get this airplane stripper, aircraft remover, help me understand this. Why do they call it that? I've never bought that can with intentions of stripping down or removing an aircraft. I mean, you could call it aircraft strength. You could call it aircraft paint remover. You could call it aircraft stripper, but that could be a totally different thing. But why call it aircraft remover? Somebody help me understand. There's probably a really good reason, and I just don't know it. So let me spray this off, wipe this off, and we're just going to get the brass wheel. I want to do this inside the shop, not out here in the sun, because just this one little single coat, it's not going to throw up a lot of dust and debris anywhere. All right, I know it's a weird angle for you, but I've got an open lift here. I've got the tank sitting on here. I like to use these brass wheels, and this one, as you can tell, has been used. I use this last on the Springer front end, and I used it so much I wore my cheap Harbor Freight angle grinder out. So I'm down a grinder, and I've got this attachment on this angle grinder. So I really don't want to take it off, and I think it'll kind of about do the same thing. It'll probably cover more surface area. Also, I'm going to turn the fan on. Got it, the big shop fan pointing right this way, so it blows the dust back that way. Whatever's going to come off here and not up in my orifices. Let's see how she does. What you have is a coat of red, single stage, coat of primer, then a whole lot of mud, a lot of Bondo. I mean, it's thick. Then the metal. So I don't know what we're going to find under here. I don't know why they mudded it so much. Because you can kind of tell how rounded the ends are, that it had a lot of it on it. So let's keep going. I'm curious as to what's on this tank. Okay, folks, so far I'm not seeing any dents. I'm not seeing any pinholes. I'm not seeing anything that would cause a person to put 3 inches of mud on this. I mean, look at this. It's like drywall. Alright, I think I'm going to have to go outside and do this, because I don't want this flying around my shop. I'll be tasting this for 3 weeks. So let's move this operation outside. Just keep on going at it. I think the flap disc would probably do better since this is so thick, but I don't want to get into the metal too much. So I want to clean up the mess I've made here. Then we're going to move outside. I mean, this is just chalk. So much. Then we don't have to worry about it coating everything in the shop. I can't even turn you off. Alright, we're outside now. Still have the fan blowing kind of out in front of the shop. It's going to keep the dust out of the shop and out of my mouth, but my wife's going to be pretty upset because this is going to blow over every vehicle we got out here. But what can a man do? Sometimes you need some enjoyment and excitement in your life. Okay, there's our first dent. Right there on the top. But I like it. It's got character. A couple dents, maybe 3 or 4 right here, 1 there. So maybe the bike was laid down on its side. That's why they had to go so high with the build-up. I don't know what they use. It's like plaster of Paris or something. It's thick. Gonna give my grinder a break. It got hot out there. It's like 100 degrees today. I think my camera cut off out in the sun. But here's what we got so far. It's looking good. Hey, kudos to the dude who did the body work on this thing. They even bondoed back here. Bondoed around the nipple. Here's that place that looked like a sticker was on there. There's a dent right here. And a couple, 3 or 4 dents right here. So far, I've not found any other dent on this. So this is going to clean up good. Now, you're looking at this and saying, man, that looks awful spotty. Like a leopard print. But understand. Get the mud out of my mouth. I want to show you how to get lines in it where it looks really good. So when we get to that spot, I'll make sure to include it in this video. All these dark spots will come out. That's from just where the brush went down or didn't go down far enough. Went down deep to the metal here, not enough there. So that's all that you're seeing there. So we can get all that out, and I'll show you how to get that out. But I'm happy with it. Up here in these corners where the brush wouldn't reach, we'll have to spray some aircraft remover in there and then scrape all that out. And back here, but I don't even know if I don't know if you'll see that at all underneath the tank. I'll know it's there, but you won't. Nobody else will know it's there. So I might try to do this. There's just so many little angles here, and they have literally mudded everything, like in behind here, everywhere. But when this is on the bike, the battery tray's here, the strap comes over here. You really would have to squat down, look through the battery hole to see all this, but I'll try to clean it best I can. But I'm going to take a break, clean up, and then we'll get back to it. All right. It's now dark. Literally has taken me all day to get to this point. So here's all the tins. The oil tank turned out just had a nick here. And one, two, three, four, five, I'm feeling maybe. So maybe it's fell over. That would have been the first thing to hit, probably. The tank, you're not going to believe it, but you have to, because I'm telling you, not one single blemish. I mean, not one. This has to be a newer tank. I'm telling you. So, this is what I'm talking about, that leopard kind of print. Now, it'd be pretty cool if you want to leave it like that, but we don't. We're going to clean it, get some good streaks in it. And then tomorrow, we're going to keep shooting this video, but here in a little bit, a pinstriper, Chase Spears, Pop's Garage Pinstriping, is going to come up and talk about what his plans are for it. Now look, I'm not an artist. I like a bike to talk to me and tell me, what do you want? What do you want to be? What do you want to look like? And I try to listen to it. It immediately screamed to me, bare metal, raw metal. So I wanted to pull this off to see if I was correct. When it comes to artwork and art design, I say, Spears, it's all yours, buddy. Blow me out of the water like you always do. Do whatever you want to it. 2 rules. No green. I don't like green bikes. They're unlucky. Kind of partial to blue. Any colors of blue. Hey, that if you watch that video on that 2012 Softail, like I did the stator, the Cycle Electric stator, that color blue, boy, wasn't that pretty? I'm telling you. But Chase has some big plans for this, and he's going to come up and talk to us about it, so you'll get to meet him for the first time. Now, the fender turned out great. There is one spot on the fender right there, a little bitty hole. We'll just have to fill that in with a little tack, and that should be good. The seat, I went ahead and took out all of the, they were like flathead screws, rounded heads with little 10mm bolts on the bottom. Went ahead and took that off. I went ahead and took this off and kind of cleaned it up so it's kind of that bare metal too. I noticed the bottom is leathered, so I think I might try to clean this leather up a little bit, get it to kind of match the top. So I want to leave this on. Looks pretty good. And over here, we don't really have to do anything to this. I like the bend. I like the feel of it. They've bent the sides down. This is definitely homemade, but they did a good job. The only thing they didn't do, you see how they have the studs, threaded studs running through here, which is just a bolt, and then they flattened it down. Well, they didn't do it here, so it's got quite a bit of a rise, and they didn't do it here. While these back here are smooth, smoothish. This here is not, and this is not. So I want to grind these down, not too much because I don't want them to twist or break on me. And that's what holds your seat on the bike. So we don't want to mess with it too much, but I do want it I think I can get it a little bit smoother. Let me, for tonight, put all this on and let you see how it's going to look. Because I think my hunch was right. I think it's really going to tie in that front end that's now raw metal, all the bare metal on the bike, and then also the pipes. Now I'm thinking, does the frame need to be? No, never mind. I get ahead of myself. I get too much into it. So let's throw these on, see what it looks like. All right, guys. Look how that set that off. And we ain't even cleaned up the metal yet. I'm telling you, that looks so good. Let me get you in here. Now, you might not like it, but I think it's consistent. It stays with the color of this. Look at that. Just that raw metal. Now, of course, the fender's going to come up. The more I'm thinking about it, we're going to see what it looks like with the springs off, these brackets off, and just setting it down completely on the ground, on that frame. With that swoop up the back, I think it's going to work out perfect, perfect, perfect. But I want to tell you guys, I am happy, happy, happy with that. That is exactly, kind of wonky there, and that is exactly the look that I wanted. And the bike was just saying, hey, do that. Now, we got to do something with the back of that oil tank. It can't be like that. But, man, even with it just spotty like that, it looks kind of good, you know. But I love it. Especially with the front end being like this. And when we get it out in the sunlight, it's really going to be awesome. And I can't wait to hear what Spears has planned. Because I told him, hey, man, I'm stripping this. I just got to see it bare metal. And he said, hey, I got an idea. And he told me a little bit about it. You're going to be blown away. I think it's perfect for this bike. So the red is gone. Thank goodness, the fire engine red. So I want to take a break here, and I'll see you bright and early in the morning. Show you how to get rid of the leopard print when you strip something down. And I can't believe it, guys, but there is not one single flaw in this tank. On either side, on the top, or on the front. It just turned out great. Turned out really, really good. Then tomorrow, after we kind of clean this up and stripe it, put our grooves kind of in it, then we're going to leather this and rivet it with some nice copper rivets that'll really pop out. I still don't know. I still don't know what I want to put in the seat, but I'm going to think on it tonight, maybe dream about it. And whatever it is in the morning, that's what we're going to put on the seat. I'm not going to pad it. I'm going to just leather it because we do have springs here, shocks here. Of course, if we go down on the frame, later on we can just add some padding to it. It's no problem at all. And, you know, if somebody was to come and try to buy this bike and say, man, I love everything, but I hate that design on the seat. Hey, no problem. What do you want on it? I'll take this off, the pattern off. I'll put some new leather on, and I'll put whatever you want on it. So no big deal about that. But with the cat bow, you know, the thing that set it off was everything was spray painted black. And I did not like that. It looked junky. And then when I went with this for the cat bowl intake, it really talked to me, hey, I want more of that. And so there's all of it you can get pretty much, and unless we did the frame, but I think the black frame just kind of, you know, breaks that up a little bit. So there it is, guys. Can't wait till in the morning to kind of even make this prettier. And then to get it out in the sunlight and look at it, and to hear what Spears' idea is for the pinstriping and the artwork on it, and then to see the leather on the seat, it's going to look really cool. See you in the morning. Hey, sweet dreams. Well, good morning to you. Kind of late morning. I stayed up late last night editing the footage that we shot yesterday. And I want to let you know, number one, no green, but I never gave you number two. I just went on mumbling and rambling on. Number two, no pink. That's it. All right, let's get back into it today. I got a lot to do today, actually. We got to get rid of this leopard print here. So we got to show you how to smooth this out. Then we got to do the seat. I thought about it and thought about it. Went to bed on it, woke up. I still don't have nothing. I don't know what design we're going to do here. But we got to do something. So I don't want to just leave it plain. I just don't think that, you know, when you can tool it and it looks cool, let's do it. We'll figure something out. Maybe just a design or something, or maybe an Ironhead design, motor design on it. Not sure, but we're going to do it something. We got a lot to do today, so let's get on it. Let's start with this tank. All right, so the way to get these leopard prints out, if you wanted them out, it's just from where, like I said before, it didn't get all the way down to the bare metal. So I like doing it this way because I can go back and get the shine that I want. If I want it real shiny, I'd polish it. Mothers and then buff it. If I wanted a dull raw metal like the front springers, which is what I'm after, then we'll do that by hand. The way you do that is with some lubricant. PB Blast, WD-40 works good. And also this keeps the tank from flash rusting when you get down to that raw metal. So you can go and get you a green Scotch-Brite pad, which this one's wore out. I'm probably going to have to go get some more. But this gives it a lot more grip. And as I do this, you can already see the lines that it's making, and it's getting rid of that, you know, leopard print, and it'll get real dirty on you, but you just keep scrubbing. And with the green Scott pad, it doesn't take really that long. And as you can see, this isn't a new pad. It's kind of worn real thin, but it still works pretty good. A brand new pad would be even better. But I'll rub a good area right here, and then we'll clean it off and see what we got. This will give it a good dull raw metal look. It will not put a shine on it, and that's what we want. Let me wipe that off and see what we got now. All right. Oh, look at that. Look at that. And you know what I discovered in doing this? I found a dent right there. Just a small one. Okay, I don't know if you can see that or not, but see the difference there? You can see that dent right there in the reflection. But that look right there is what we're going for, not this over here. Although I like this, but I really like that. And because we use lubricant, it's nice. It's got some film to it, and it's not going to flash rust on us. So if you wanted to run this just like this and never clear coat it, over time it would kind of age and look even better. And then if it aged too much on you, just grab you some lubricant, grab you a Scotch pad, and go back at it again, and it would return exactly to this. So I'm happy with that. That's exactly what I wanted, and that's how you do that. Now you'll see it'll bring out some little, I don't want to call them imperfections, but maybe where I didn't use the brass brush, I used that other wheel, and it dug in a little bit too much, but I think it kind of gives it character. I don't want it just shiny. And those little scars in there kind of help it look raw. And so it actually turned out pretty good. So now let's do this side right here, and you can watch it in action. I tell you, after doing all that plaster of Paris removal last night. I understand now why the good Lord gives you more nose hairs as you get older, because that really saved me. And I'm not really even putting too much pressure here. And I can cover a pretty large distance with this. I'm just keeping my fingers flat and just going along the tank, and I can tell that it's working really, really well. You can see by the blackness there that it's getting all that stuff that we missed, that we didn't get down on to the tank with. So this part of the process doesn't take that long. Now look at that. That's beautiful. That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to see, how it looked on the bike. Now with this, then Spears, or the Pinstriper, can come in and leave some raw metal and do some designs, and then clear over it. It'll give it a good shine, but still have that dull raw metal look underneath. I wonder what Nicolas Cage is doing today. Probably trying to steal somebody's fastback. Now remember, you want to go in the direction that you want the metal to be, I guess, sanded in. Because if I was to go this way, you would see the difference in the metal. So I want to try to keep that direction going. I still got to get this red out up in and around this lip with my pocket knife and scraping. Maybe some of that aircraft remover, stripper. And just like that, we are done. That really made a difference. I know it's kind of hard to see maybe with the glare of the sun, but everything turned out good. Let me get over here on this side. So there you can see how it really brought that bare metal to life. Took the dull off of it, but it's not too shiny. Of course, it's not been cleared yet. And as far as the back of the oil tank that's red, and underneath the gas tank that's red, I'm just going to let Chase Spears deal with that. He knows how to get all that off, because he's going to have to prep everything anyway for the artwork that he's going to do. And so that just turned out great. I really love that look. And I said this was a perfect tank, but it does have a little nick right there. Somebody's front tooth might have went into that. I don't know. But I really wish I had better light back here. Let me shut this bay door and see if that might brighten up this side for us. There. Shut that bay door, and I put some lights kind of pointing back there at that. Now you can see how everything just kind of blends together. The front springer, the motor casing, the air breather, the heads, covers, the oil tank, the pipes, the rear brake drum, the rear fender. This all kind of ties it in together. And the more I'm looking at this now, I really want to take those springs off, just drop the seat down and see what it looks like. And then we can determine, you know, if we want to put the springs back on or leave them off. So before we set this fender, or before we set this seat down without the springs, we got to set the fender. And I need to go ahead and set the fender anyway, so I can get it exactly the height with the holes pre-cut, trim off what we don't need, and then it's ready to go to Spears this evening. Setting the fender height, you have to be careful. Now on a hardtail, you don't. You can go down as low as you want to. Now you got to understand, as the tire heats up, it will expand. The RPMs will expand it as well. So I like, if it's a hardtail, I'll usually run a rubber hose, garden hose underneath, set the fender, and that gives me about, once it curves about like that. That allows for any type of swelling of the tire and for any debris that might get caught in the groove of a tire and come up and not tear your fender all to pieces. So about right there is where I like to set them for hardtails. Now, this is not a hardtail. It has suspension. So it's got the swing arm that comes up and down as the shocks compress. So we got to leave a little bit more room. And so to do that, I like to take a block of wood. With the wood, you can kind of move it out to bring the fender on down or move it in to bring the fender on up. But as far as compression, I don't want this setting up way high. I think that would look bad. So I think about right there is a good height. I may bring it down. Well, no, I think that's a good height. Let me measure the tip of it and then we'll know exactly where we're at. Bring this back up to about where it's going to sit in the frame. I like that layout. Let's see what we've got to the tire. We've got a little over 2 inches to the tire from the tip of the fender up. So I think that right there is going to be perfect. It's not setting up too high, but it still gives room for the shocks. If I test ride it, I'm a 250-pound guy. So if I test ride it and I feel that fender kind of dragging, then we can always raise the fender up. Now we're going to mount the fender right here through this frame. It's already got holes here. So that's going to be 2 points of mount. But we need more than that so the fender doesn't get pushed on the back and just flop down. So we're going to have to build either a bracket here that goes over to this to hold this fender from going down and up, or drill in here again and run a second bolt. But I think a bracket would be better than drilling through this frame again and weakening this back point, especially if we run springs here. So I like this. I want to mark this here where I know where it's at. We'll make sure we're still at our, okay, that's 2.5 inches now. I might bring it out and go down a little bit. Mark that. We're going to take these tabs off for now so we can get a longer bolt through there. Now we can take these bolts out, take these brackets off. So I got a 3/8 extension ran into the tire to kind of hold this back up. Zip tied on both sides to kind of center it. And it gave enough kind of, I guess, tension on it that I could take that wood out. So now when you look down here, there's no gaps exposing the tire. And when you come over here, it is centered up. Now the bike, if you look at the lift, the bike is kind of leaning a little bit, just the way the frame is. So I had to kind of do this. I had to do this right here to get it to line up. But for my eyeballs, from what I'm looking at, it looks good. Now the tank's not mounted. It's kind of wonky. We'll just let that fall down there. So with the tank there, it looks like it's lined up pretty good, but not perfect. So let me try. Everything's kind of balanced up here. Let me see. That brought it out a little too much. And I may have to raise that up. Now that's a little too much. I should have left it alone. Why didn't you tell me to leave it alone? Okay, I'm happy with that. What I can do is actually make the fender holes a little bit bigger, so there's some type of adjustment. And then what I want to do up here is make a bracket that through this hole that comes up here and angles up to this hole that I made in the fender. And then if I want to drop the fender down, adjust the height of the fender, I can do that by putting spacers in between the bolt and the bracket. So I think that's going to work. And then we have our provisions here for that fender that's going to hold it up. But I don't think we're high enough now. I think that's going to rub. We're way low. Looks like we're at about 1 inch. Yep, just shy of 1 inch. So now all I have to do is slide a paint stick in this hole and touch that side and touch the other side, then we can pull it off. We will have to run some spacers on the outside of the fender and the inside of the frame. I can't bend that fender out, it'll almost flatten it out. So we're just going to run some spacers in there and then some longer bolts to reach inside there. It's going to clear the wheel. We'll run the bolts probably from the inside out. That way, you know, we don't have to worry about a lock washer and a nut sticking out too far. All we have to worry about is just the head of the bolt. So we'll run our bolts in that way. There should be plenty of room from the tire to do that. And then make the little bracket to mount the front of the fender on. And then we're good. Okay, so I found me some grade 8 bolts that are a little bit too long so that I can shave them down to be flush, and maybe even some nice, those little chrome nut things, you know, with kind of rounded nuts. I don't know what those are called. Somebody educate me on that. And ran them on both sides. Now, to get the fender square, I just ran each side in until it pulled that fender to line up exactly where I wanted it on here. Then what I did is I took my little measuring tool that has the inverted tips, and I just slid them down in here and then turned this little handle out to release them like so, till they're a good fit like that. And then that's my measurement from tip to tip for my spacer. So I did that on this side and on that side, and I've got it spaced really well. Any fine-tune adjustments, I can just make that on the fender itself. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have drilled this hole to hold this up until I knew where my fender was going to set this way, because now when I raise this up, it doesn't quite line up squarely with this hole that I'm going to make the bracket. It's a little bit off. Now I can make the hole in the bracket kind of offset, and I can make a big enough bracket that kind of comes up here, and actually the thicker kind of the better. So it'll be fine. It's just the little things. It'll be under the seat. You won't even see it, but I'll know it's there. So in future references, just know you probably don't need to drill a center mounting hole until you get your fender centered on the frame, but it'll be okay. Now with the two mounts on the side, now we can just play with the height, what we want. We wanted it at 2 inches. That board was exactly that, so let's put that in there. Run that back up in there about like that. That's where our marking was. And I am going to have to kind of tweak the fender a little bit. I think once I draw that down, it'll draw over. So about there is our height of the fender. So let me get you the overall kind of view of the wheel. What do you think? Maybe too high? Now, understand, now that I've got this set, I'm going to trim. I'm just going to take a scribe. I'm going to follow this brace right here. I want to go up and maybe just loop it, or I might just go on up straight. But I think this kind of having this skirt right here and then coming over kind of helps to hide how much I need up in here. Now I don't really need that much. It does set kind of high, so I can bring this on down. Still a little high. I'm not worried so much about the depth back here rubbing. I'm worried about kind of this right around here rubbing. You say, well, just take the shocks off and see how low it sets. Well, that's not how the bike rides. The shocks will only go down so much. I could put somebody on it, let them set on it. Still, even when you hit a bump, it's going to go down more. Now, I could re-drill the hose in this and drop this top down more, but that's only going to bring the back end kind of up. So I like the high up here, and then it goes down. Kind of follows the whole slope of the bike. I'm liking the looks of that. I'm looking the likes of that, liking the looks. Let's see what that's at. All right, I guess 1.5 inches is really what looks best. That kind of tucks it down in there. So I need to make my bracket that's fitted up here and then curves over just to fit that. Okay, so I've got the fender set. I may kind of keep trimming on this so that it goes straight on back at this angle here and doesn't look like it's been chopped off. I think that might help the look of it. See, just kind of follow this on out and run it kind of right down under here. I guess get this line kind of closer and then down. I think that might help the look of it. I don't know. Kind of like that though. Another thing I ran into is now that we got the fender on, the springs don't fit in there around the fender. So we're going to have to probably go with those kind of scissor looking springs. They're narrow, so that would work. I did take the springs off and set the seat down, but it doesn't fit on the fender well. So what I did on the fender was I made me a little bracket here, just out of a scrap I found on the ground over by the vise. It's going to go in that hole and bolt in, and then it's going to go right there with the 2 bolts. So since I had one off-centered, I said, let's make another one. Double the pleasure. So there we go. Once I tighten all that down, it'll be good and tight. I got the crowbar in there just to hold it up because I don't have any nuts or anything on that. I've just kind of got it sitting on here just for when Spears comes up. He can kind of eyeball it and see what it's going to look like and can talk about his design and plans a little bit better. But I'm happy with that. It looks good. It's sitting exactly where we want it. When you get a gander of the bike, let's get on this side. You can get kind of a good view of it here. The fender sets just right. I'm glad we went with the short fender because everything in the back is kind of stubby, and that kind of round, stubbiness helps draw everything together. If we were to run that fender out, it would just be too much fender. If we were to fishtail it up, I think it would just kind of try to pull things up. It's just, I like it like that. And now that we've got kind of bare metal, we're definitely going to have to go with chrome spokes, front and rear. And while we're at it, we'll get some new tread as well. All right, folks, the time has finally arrived where you get to meet Chase Spears, the extraordinaire pinstriper painter. You name it, he can do it. So it's a pleasure to have him in the shop. He's going to walk around and show us his plans and his ideas for it. And guys, like I said before, when it comes to the artwork, he's the expert. I just try to listen to the bike and what it wants. It was screaming some bare metal. That's what we've got it to. And then he's going to talk about adding some color and some art and some design to it. And I'm just going to grab the camera, follow him around, and let him talk.
I tend to get a little nervous. Hey guys, I'm Chase. Very kind words. I am not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but let me tell you, artwork is kind of my field. I love it. It's a passion, and when me and Kevin got to talking and we decided we really wanted to come together on this build, and in the beginning there was a lot of different ideas that we had for this. It could have went several different ways. Now, as far as the paint goes, there was an earlier episode where I had very much discouraged him from taking this all the way down to bare metal. You just never know what you're going to get. If you get a set of 10s, you get an old bike somewhere, you have no idea. Somebody could have hit this with a hammer and it be just filled with body filler. Now you go and you want to have an idea, you want to strip this whole thing down, it could be a bucket of worms, and you got to end up buying all new parts for it. It was just a chance that we were willing to take on this project to achieve kind of the look we're going for. With this front end, I'm not going to say that it's kind of rare, but there ain't many of them out there. And taking this thing all the way back down to its bare metal, rough, there's nothing to hide here. We have nothing hidden. This is going to be just like an old school chopper back in the day. Somebody just took this thing, they chopped her all up. It is bare bones, ready to ride. Now, we wanted to bring that back in. Kevin said, hey, this thing is screaming. It needs to be in bare metal. I'm like, all right. Let's see what we can do. So he strips it down. He says, it's not that bad. I'm like, all right, I'll come up here. We come up here, we go over some plans and over the phone, and I think we've got it dialed in like we want it. We're going to go with clear on the whole thing. I'm going to give it some textured look. I'm going to give some airbrush accents. We're going to go with black scallops. We haven't yet determined exactly what kind of pinstriping color we want on this thing, but she will tell us what she wants to be. For the most part, these parts are fantastic. That's a lot of good parts to work with. As we're going through, I'm going to do my best to take photos. I'm going to send them to him so he can share the progress with you guys. If there's any questions, don't hesitate to say something in the comments. Anybody can do this stuff. Small little things kind of make you feel good about yourself, knowing that you can physically go out here and work on something of your own. That's what this channel's about, guys. Learning. My plan is to do the black scallops. I want the scallops to go all the way down to where you see the top of the scallop coming down the side of the tank. Now, I might stop it halfway. I might go all the way. It just depends. But you also have to remember, you got another 1/2 inch of pinstriping that's going to surpass that bottom line and then come back up. Do you want a half stripe? you know, just the top of it pinstripe because you don't see the bottom, and then come up? Do you want to taper them to where they follow the contour of the tank? Do you just want to go straight? When it comes to painting a tank, if you come all the way down here and you do a pinstriping line all the way up through and then follow it, let's say you want to make this your focal point, you're going to bring that up, and that next one is going to point right toward that, and your next one's going to point right toward that. And when you get up here on the top, I really want to leave this open as much as possible, and maybe come down with 2 in the center, and then have a pinstriping design right here. Now there's going to be a lot of shading that's going to kind of give this depth. When we paint this, of course, this tank has got lubricant on it to keep it from rusting up as we're just sitting here touching it. So once I get this tank stripped down, get the texture that I want, I am immediately putting it in clear coat and letting it sit. Once that clear coat dries, I will come back and I will wet sand this. I'll probably put 2-3 coats of clear on it and then wet sand it. And what that's going to do is any blemishes, any imperfections are going to be buried underneath that. And I'm going to start with a very flat, smooth surface to do my outline. After it's sanded, you come back and you spray your color, and then you're going to put another layer of clear. You're going to let it sit. Come back and wet sand. Then you're going to come back and you're going to do your pinstriping line. You know, whether you have a bugler wheel that you can feed paint into and then follow your line so you know that your line is going to be so big all the way down, or whether you decide to do it by hand or have somebody else do it, I always suggest do a clear coat over top of the product that you're painting. I encourage you to always put a clear coat over that, because if you mess up, you can wipe that off and you can start over, and you don't have to worry about cross-contaminating those colors underneath that clear coat and potential having smear underneath. You know, a lot of bad things can happen. You're using 2 different types of paint. The pinstriping paint that I use has a hardener. What I will do is, instead of using mineral spirits to dilute that paint, I will use the urethane reducer that I use to spray the urethane base coat. It allows that pinstripe design to dry faster using that solvent. Once that dries, you'll come back and you'll just dust your clear over top of it until you get about 2-3 layers, depending on what type of clear you use. Then you can come back and you can wet sand it. After all the artwork's done and you've got it buried under the clear, cut that thing, buff it. Wet sand the far out of that thing, being careful on your corners, and you're just going to buff it out and she'll look like glass. Instead of just painting this thing black, we're moving back with all these scallops. We could very easily just take and fill all that in, or try to get somebody to pop those dents out. But those little battle scars are kind of part of this bike's history. We've discussed it, and I think we're just going to keep it there. There's a section right in here that we really haven't identified. I assume that it used to be some type of a metal emblem that was there, because he said he looked on the inside and it doesn't look like there's been any patchwork done. But we're going to keep that there too. What this is going to do is, whenever you put this clear over top of this metal, it's going to darken. It's going to have a deep finish. Then you're going to have the clean black scallops that kind of overlap everything. So once you look through this, you're going to have a super thick layer of clear coat, and these scallops are going to look like they're just kind of hovering over top of that bare metal. The rear fender has kind of been an issue for us. We really didn't know what route we wanted to go. We thought about bringing the scallops back this way, doing a big design. We may have opted out to where we're going to keep the bare metal on primarily most of this rear section. We're going to come right up the back with a scallop that's going to be facing back, and these scallops are going to taper right back in to the bottom side of this fender and just kind of fade off into the sunset there. I think it'll just kind of keep everything together. Now, once we get it painted, we may change our mind. As of right now, I think that's a route we can go, because you could also bring the scallops facing this way, and then a center one coming down from underneath the seat. That could be another route. Once we get everything taped out, he'll be able to look at it and say, I like this better than that. We've had some deep discussions on this bike, and we're getting down to the brass tacks.
All right, so I hope that kind of helped you out of seeing kind of our design and our plans for the bike. I think we're right on the same track with this. And I love, this is to me the best part because I get to hand these off to him. And then when they come back, it always blows my mind. It's always something that he's thought of and probably slept on and dreamed about and then added to it. And it was just awesome. So I'm totally giving him the reins here. We're at a good spot here that I can give him these and him take them off. But before we say bye to Spears, I want to tell you, he's got his own YouTube channel. And he hadn't posted in a minute, but he's working on getting it going again. So I'm going to put a link to his channel in this video. And you can look at the people that I subscribe to and follow. And his channel is on there. It's Pop's
Garage Paint and Pinstriping.
Pop's Garage Paint and Pinstriping. And I'll be sure to include a link down there in our video. And maybe he'll even do some videos on this. And you'll get to see the work in progress. Now, I have some of the best subscribers in the world. I do. Y'all are so kind to me. And let me just tell you, somebody today, one of my subscribers today, and I'm not going to mention their name because that's not what they did it for. They just shipped me a brand new GoPro Hero 12. And I know you're shaking your head, but that's the wind moving the camera. It's a whole bundle kit, but just as a gift to help improve what I do in this shop as a channel. And that, guys, I can't tell you how much that means to me. So what I'm going to do, and Chase doesn't know this, but I wanted to wait till now because he wouldn't allow me to any other way. I'm going to give him my setup here that I have. It's a GoPro Hero 9. It's the mics, it's the stands, it's all the things, the SIM cards, everything he needs to maybe help get his videos over into 4K and to give better quality out to you guys. So hop over there and subscribe to his channel, and maybe we'll see some work of his coming soon. And maybe, Chase, this will help you.
You set me up.
I did set you up. Sorry. But that wasn't why I brought you up here. That's just all happened today. Sometimes the good Lord just works things out. And because I have such good subscribers, man, they just love pouring back into people. And so I know Chase will pass it on when his time comes to pass it on. And that's all I'm doing is just passing it on. Because somebody blessed me, I want to bless somebody else. So Chase, when mine comes in, I'll get that over to you, show you how to use everything, set everything up.
Well, that's a blessing.
So,
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, change of plans. Had a good time with Mr. Chase Spears up here visiting with us, and just a super cool dude. So I gave him a tank, my oil tank, my Fender, and he went off to do his magic. He gave me, I told him I've been looking for a 3/4 helmet because when I ride behind my son, his pipes ring my ears with my little half shell I've got. I'm like, man, I wish I could find an old school 1970s 3/4 helmet that I can take to my other painter friend, Mr. Mike, and have him match the paint that he did my pan head with, and then give it back to Spears and have him do the pinstripe outlines like he did on my pan head. And he brought this up. And look, inside, well, you can't see it, but I'm excited. This says 1970. It's got the 1970 sticker inside it. This is so cool. It smells like a 1970 Cutlass. So my plans are to have it painted to match my bike, pinstriped out, and I'm going to find somebody that does repadding or maybe just a liner. And I'd love to have like a light brown leather that kind of matches my seat, but keep the black straps because these are really cool. So if you know anybody that does padding and helmet work as far as inside, and you know the earpieces are missing out of this, I love it. I got to try it on. It's a little bit big without the earpieces, but I was afraid it'd be too small. Man, tell me that. Come on. So This video has already ran probably over an hour long, and that's after going back and probably cutting out all my mumbling. We still have the seat to do. But while Spears was up here talking about those scallops, it lit something inside my mind. How about on the seat pan, we do my logo up high on the back, and then match those scallops, tool actual scallops in the seat from the front going back. So you have the scallops on the tank, on the oil tank, on the fender, and we'll tool it into the seat. I thought that was a pretty good idea, but to do that, we have to wait till Chase lays out his design on the tank, and then I see how those scallops look, and I can try to match that in the seat. It's going to be next Friday when I see you again, and we will tool the leather. So I'll spend a whole video, me and you, sitting down from start to finish of how to tool a leather seat on a custom pan. So thank you so much for hanging out in the shop with me today and with Chase. Go check his channel out and give him a subscribe and a thanks. And I want to tell you something. People say, why don't you ever ask people to subscribe, or ask them to like, or ask them to click the bell, or ask them to comment? That's not why I do this. I was watching a video the other day. The guy's got like 2 million something subscribers, and he's begging for subscribers. And I'm like, dude, you made it. What are you doing? You made it. How many more you need? I just do this for the love of what I do, and hoping to share it with you, and hoping that you share it with somebody else. So tell your mama and them I said hi.